Alright, so we're out here. I'm going to do kind of a different style video here. I'm going to show you so far what the kit is that I carry in my 1980 CJ5 when I'm going out on the trail. I keep adding to it. I've recently added some new stuff to it. So I'm going to show you that, and then I'm going to tell you the stuff that I know I need to add to the kit, because there are certain things you need to have, certain things that are nice to have, and things like that. So we're going to go over that. So, here lately, if y'all been watching the channel, you know that I recently had a bit of a breakdown on the trail. Let's get over here on the other side where it's a little shadier. I had a kind of a mini breakdown on the trail. Initially thought it was carb issues, then I've determined that it was probably distributor related issues. And so I'm just going to show y'all what I already was carrying in the Jeep prior to that, and then what I've added to it since then, and like I say, what I need to add to it. So at the time of that engine trouble that I had, what I was carrying in the Jeep was, let me open this back up back here, make it easier to show you. What I was carrying then was basically a basic set of tools, things that I thought that I might need if I was to have a breakdown. So what that means is I've got way too much crap in this Jeep right now, but we'll start with the tool bag. I'll show you what's in here. Alright, so this is just a small tool bag, and I'll show you what I have in here. Alright, now this is going to be more your hand tools, stuff like that. Get you positioned here. Alright, so what we got in here. We got vice grips, of course. I've got a pair of Knipex. This is violently superior to channel locks. These are actually what they call, you can use them like an actual wrench because the way they cantilever and the way they open and everything. These are phenomenal. Really like Knipex. A pair of long nose needle nose pliers right here. I brought, this is an American made crescent wrench. Here's a tube of ultra black gasket maker. Here's a pair of wire strippers. Here's some thread tape thread. Here's some butt connectors. I need to splice a wire together. Here's a smaller crescent wrench. It's part of the set for this one, both American made. And then sorted screwdrivers, a small pry bar, Phillips head, straight head, small straight edge, even smaller straight edge. I've added some hose clamps because I was having trouble with hose clamps. I added those. Various other assorted screwdrivers. And then the rest in here, not screwdriver, the rest in here is basically, this is mostly, it's a full set of double-ended Cornwell wrenches. And so this is the full lineup of double-ended Cornwells. And I prefer carrying double-ended wrenches because, you know, you've got one wrench, two sizes, so you don't have to carry just one wrench per size. You can carry one wrench and get two sizes. Sorry, I'm trying to just separate out the Cornwells. Alright, so in this set, you've got a 7/16 half inch. You've got a 9/16 5/8. You've got 7/8 3/4, 11/16 19/32, 1 inch, and 15/16. And then this is another these are random vintage double-ended wrenches, and some of these are duplicate sizes. So like there's going to be, this one's a 3/8 7/16. This one's a 15, well, it's covered in so much grease I can't read it. This is 3/8 and a quarter. This is a 7/16 half inch. This is 5/8 and 9/16. And this is a 9/16 half inch. Now, most everything on here falls in like 3 categories as far as fasteners goes, is a bolt head. Like everything on here is going to be a 9/16, a half inch. There's some 5/8 things on here, but like almost everything is going to be that, and sometimes you need 2 half inches or 2 9/16. So I'll make sure I bring that. So that's what's in this tool bag. Now, this is going to cover most of my normal situations that I could have as far as general maintenance. There's something wrong with my carburetor, I can take it out with this. I've got the tools to take a look at that. I have a wiring issue, I can fix that. I've got a leaking gasket, I can patch that. Vice grips are obviously good for all kinds of things, that if you've got a rounded off bolt or some crap like that, you can take care of it usually with that. And the Knipex is just kind of a all-around good thing to have in the Jeep. Alright, so that's the tool bag. Now, the other thing that I carry, and I'm going to isolate this down in the future, get a different kit, but I'm just using the one that I happen to have. And I carry my suitcase style gear wrench set. Alright, I carry this with me in the Jeep everywhere I go, because this is going to cover basically every socket need that I'm going to have that's 3/8 or quarter. There's really not a whole lot on here I'm going to need a half-inch socket for, but this will cover everything small, fasteners, everything like that. So that's pretty self-explanatory why I carry this. In the future, I'm going to isolate it down to probably just 3/8 sockets. I really don't need the 3/8 that often. But honestly, it doesn't take up much space. It stores flat in the Jeep. It's not that big a deal. So that's what that is. Now, beyond this, what do I carry in the CJ5? Well, my personal preference is to carry whatever you think in extreme low potential you might need. So, the first thing that you should have in the Jeep at all times, no matter what, because crappy old Jeeps with shoddy wiring catch on fire a lot, is a fire extinguisher. Okay? And not just a vintage fire extinguisher you found in a old bathtub beside a Barnes & Noble or something. All right, like one that's actually new. This one's dirty because it's been in the Jeep, but it is a new one. It's probably a year old. So you keep that in any vintage vehicle. All right, we're not talking just Jeeps. If you have a International, a Scout, Bronco, whatever, GTO Judge, whatever, you should carry a fire extinguisher in it. Because you ask yourself, would you rather just have some melted wires and inconvenience, or would you rather have a burned out classic vehicle? So carry at least one fire extinguisher. I used to carry, when I was driving Jubal before I started the engine swap on it, I carried 2 in him, all right? Now, beyond that, I carry an axe, all right? This is a short camping axe. I've had this axe for a long, long time. This is a very old head that we picked up at an antique store, and I put this handle in it years ago. I need to oil the handle with some boiled linseed oil. The handle's getting dry, but I carry an axe. And I carry an axe because there's been several times where I've been up in the mountains and a tree will fall when I'm deep in the mountains, and if I come back out and I don't have any way to do it or to cut it, I'm just kind of screwed. So I carry an axe. Sometimes I'll even carry a chainsaw, but I always carry an axe. Beyond that, I carry a cant hook. Now, the cant hook is multifunctional. Cant hook, obviously, its primary function is after I cut a tree out of the way with the axe, I can help roll the log out of the way, and I don't have to blow my back out, all right? The other reason for the axe, or for the cant hook, is you can use it on the Jeep. Say you need to remove the wheel, and it's stuck real bad for some reason or something or another, and you need to get it off, you can actually hook this into the sprockets of the wheel and use it as leverage to pull it out. You can also use it if you bent something real bad or you popped your shackle too far back on your leaf spring or something, you can get in there with a cant hook, hook it in there and get that leverage to pop it back to where it belongs. So, cant hook. I know what you're saying. Well, Red Clay Traveler, good Lord, you're carrying a lot of crap. Well, yeah, I do. All right, there's a reason. Now, beyond that, what else do I carry in the old Jeep? I carry, let's see, I carry I'll show you. I carry this. I carry a bottle jack. Now, this isn't the best jack I'd want, but I do carry a bottle jack. It's got a handle with it that goes with the bottle jack. You could use this as a cheater pipe if you needed to. I also carry, here's another pair of wire strippers. Redundancy is nice. Put that in the bag. So I bring the bottle jack, and I also carry, this is a collapsible four-way, and that's obviously self-explanatory. What the four-way's for, you bust a tire, and you put your spare on, you got a four-way. Now, you're risking strength of the four-way by making it a collapsible one, but this isn't something I'm going to use every single day of the week, and it'll be strong enough for undoing these lug nuts if I needed to. And it stores a little bit easier when it's collapsible. So that goes in the tool bag. You've got your bottle jack. That's obvious, self-explanatory. You need to change a tire. You need to do something to shackle. You need to do something, say bolts came out of your old pants, whatever it might be, your skid plate. You can use that to jack it back up into place while you make your repair. Let's see. I also carry let's see. I also, right now, I'm carrying a little bit of oil. Now, this engine doesn't leak oil anymore, but I still just keep it in here because this is the only thing I run this oil in right now, so I just keep it in the Jeep. I carry a little bit of oil, and that's not full, that's just a little bit of oil. And I also, because this is the most recent thing that I put antifreeze in, I put this jug of antifreeze in here. Now, I know what you're saying, you're going to carry around a jug of antifreeze everywhere you go. No, the main reason why I do that is two reasons. If I needed to top off with antifreeze somewhere, I don't have to buy it, I don't have to slow down, I don't have to go hunt for it, I've got enough. And usually when I have to top stuff off, it's usually a quarter gallon, a half gallon. Oil's the same way, usually it's a half a quart if I ever have to add something to anything. I haven't added any oil to this Jeep in a long time because it really doesn't leak enough oil or burn enough for me to add any. But the other reason is these containers are nice. So say I'm out in the woods, I need some water, I've busted my radiator, or a hose has come loose, a clamp, let's say a clamp on the bottom radiator hose is popped loose. I've pumped all my fluid out on the ground, I've made the repair, now I need to get some water back in it, and that's a lot harder to do with just a water bottle, but since I already have this jug in there, I already have some antifreeze, and then I can reuse this jug to collect water out of the creek, put in there temporarily for me to get back home. All right. So it is a calculation on how much space you want to take up, but I keep all this contained in a milk crate so it can't tip over and spill. That's where this goes, that goes, the fire extinguisher is, bottle jack is, so that it can't slide around or anything. Also carry one of these. This is a battery terminal cleaner. It's self-explanatory. Clean your battery terminals, get corrosion. If you lose connection or anything like that, that can be extremely frustrating. So I carry a battery terminal cleaner. Doesn't hurt to have. All right. And I also just found this wrench that I didn't know where it was, so that's good. Now, beyond this, now you're saying, well, that's all stuff just to fix problems, Regulate Traveler. What if you need a part on the trail? I'm glad you asked. All right. So, what do we carry? This is what I've added here recently. And there's more to be added. So here's a roll of electrical tape, self-explanatory. This is replacement parts for if I have another failure on the trail. All right. Keep these in the glove box, keep them dry. This is the module for the distributor. These are known to go bad. They'll give you ignition issues, problems like that. In this box, it comes with the grease to put underneath it, make good connection. Keep that in the Jeep now, all right? Because I can't make this on the trail. I can't limp it home on the trail if this completely fails, all right? So we got that. This is also a distributor. This is a brand new coil, all right? I keep this in the glove box. It's dry in the glove box. It doesn't get wet in there. So now we have a coil and the module for the distributor. All right. Now I do need to add a rotor button for it, but this is the main thing I'm concerned with. I do need to add the other couple more little things, but this right here is going to hold me over until I finish out the kit. All right. And then I also carry I got a new fan belt, which I do need to put on, and then I'll keep the old one in the Jeep as a spare. But I've got this fan belt. So whether I run the old one and never put this one on, or if I swap them, either way I've got an extra belt, because if I bust a belt out in the woods, there's nothing I can do about that. I can't just sling a piece of paracord around it and run the engine. I've got to have the fan belt to run my alternator, to run my water pump. I've got to have it. You're screwed without it. So I've got a fan belt. And this is a complete carburetor rebuild kit for the Carter carburetor on the CJ5. That's what this is. It's got a brand new gasket in it. It's got accelerator pumps, jets, needles, all the pieces in there that you could need to rebuild that carburetor on the side of the trail. It's also got diagrams and information on how to disassemble and reassemble your Carter YF, Model YF carburetor. So you've got instructions on how to do it if you're not familiar. And generally you're not going to need to do a total rebuild on the side of the trail, but it's nice to have the full kit in the event that you need it to. So that's what this is. All right. So now what do I need to add to this? Because this is most of it. I know it seems like a lot, but it's really not. All that packs away into the Jeep, and I have plenty of room to add other stuff. So, oh, one more thing, and then we'll move on. Other thing I carry in here is a assortment of fuses. I actually have more than this in there, but I was having fuse issues until I was able to figure out that it's because I'm an idiot. And once I figured that out, we're not having issues anymore, but you never can have too many fuses around, so we keep fuses in there. It's an easy thing to carry, they're cheap. Okay, so what else would I add? I would add a rotor button for the distributor. I would add 2 more fuel filters, both styles. So it runs a clear, I run a clear fuel filter on this Jeep that leads into the factory metal one that has 1 input and 2 outputs. The 1 output goes to the carburetor, the other one is a return line to the fuel tank. I would add at least 1 of those metal ones and 1 of those clear Wix fuel filters. So I need to add those. Rotor button. I would add probably a small bundle of safety wire or baling wire. I would add just a handful of random, 1.5 inch, half-inch long bolts that I know are in different spots that are prone to rattle out on this Jeep. Add a couple of those just because that would be nice to have. They don't take up much space, they're not heavy. What else? I would probably add a small bundle of wire, of electrical wire, in case I needed to make a repair underneath here for the distributor power wire, or for a tail light or anything like that. It wouldn't hurt to have that, so that I could patch in a wire if one gets ripped to shreds and it's too short. It's always good to have a little bit of wire like that. There's going to be more things that come to my mind as I go out on the road with it and face issues and see issues coming up that I may or may not need to address. So right now, this covers the bulk of it. Those are the main things I'd want to add right now. I want to add a winch up here in the front. That's self-explanatory for self-rescue. I'd like to do that. That's something I'm planning on doing before long. I've actually got a winch. Y'all have seen in some of my videos that I used to winch trucks and stuff up onto the trailer. So I might just go ahead and pop it on here. I'm not loading Jeeps and stuff onto the other trailer as much as I used to, so it might be good to go ahead and do that. Let's see, what else? I would very much like to get the mounts for the Jeep for back here on the rear. Let me show you, I'll carry it back here on the rear, so that I can carry extra 10 gallons at least worth of fuel. Because right now, I've got just a conventional gas can back here, which is somewhat inconvenient because it takes up space. So I've got 5 gallons right here, but that takes up a lot of space. They make mounts that hold jerry cans that will mount on my tire rack right here. They'll mount on the upright right here. So if I bought the style that I'm thinking of, let me get you adjusted here. If I bought the style that I'm wanting, they basically mount on this upright right here and stick out right here, and that's where they hold the jerry can. Now, that could be problematic for me because of my rack here, so I might only get away with running one on the outside on this side of the tire. But I know I can run at least one of them, so I need to get one of those. That'll give me 5 gallons. That gives me half a tank in the CJ5, so that'd be nice. I need to add my, let me get you readjusted again. I need to add my little shock absorber strut things here to hold my top up, because I just carry this piece of metal around to hold it up, but it takes up space. I don't need it for anything else. It doesn't really serve any other purpose. You could use it as a pry bar, but it's not necessary. I need to buy these. These aren't expensive. I've been too lazy to get them, quite honestly. I need to do weather stripping, all that stuff I've talked about before. But that's basically the bulk of it that I need to be able to drive confidently. Now, there's always going to be things that can fail on the trail that you can't truly plan for. All right, like you can't imagine every failed scenario that could possibly occur, because mechanical things break at inopportune times and in very strange ways. So, say for example, I can't carry the tools and things I need necessary to where if this rear axle seal blew out and it's leaking oil all over my rear brake drum, where I can change it on the trail. Even if I bought the components and carried them in the Jeep, I couldn't do it by myself on the trail. So things like that you can't worry about, because I've got brand new seals and bearings on the front or on the rear on both sides. I've accounted for that by replacing it now instead of letting it fail on the trail. So I've already accounted for that. I've accounted for suspension by putting new shocks on it, new bushings. I need to finish the bushings back here in the back, but I do have them. I just need to get around doing it. But I can account for that by having those. I've accounted for potential cooling problems by adding a gauge to it so I can monitor my temperature. I've accounted for it by changing my water pump, by bringing a belt, by checking and making sure I've got good water flow and everything and the engine's running at optimal temperature. I've accounted for charging by putting a brand new alternator on it, running a good battery in it, making sure my battery connections are good, putting new battery terminals on, or battery terminal connectors on. I've accounted for oil loss by changing seals and gaskets and things like that, rear main seals and oil pan gaskets and things like that, to mitigate the potential of total oil loss on the trail. But what you can account for is shoving a rock through your oil pan and losing all your oil. So obviously you can't account for that. You can guard against it by putting a better oil pan skid plate on, things like that, or just not driving like an asshole. That's also the easiest way to avoid it. But we're talking about practical fail points on a vehicle of this age, and quite honestly, any vehicle. Right? When you get far enough out, if you're 10, 12 miles, 20 miles from the nearest paved road, it doesn't matter if it's a 2025 Jeep or it's a 1940 Jeep, its main fail points are going to be essentially the same. It's going to be cooling, charging, fuel, U-joints, tires, things like that. Those are all going to be the same. I would argue the newer Jeep is going to have dramatically more of extra fail points in regards to sensors, electronic components, things like that can fail and make it run poorly or not run at all, things like that this Jeep doesn't have. But we're talking about the core of what makes an automobile. Those things are going to be essentially the same. So that's the things we're trying to account for. Like my rear end is whining in this Jeep. It could blow out tomorrow. It could blow out 15 years from now and another 80,000 miles from now. But what do you do in that scenario? If I'm out in the woods and all of a sudden my rear end stops rear-ending and I just give it the go pedal over here, all right, the send it lever, and it just revs up and nothing happens, what do? Well, generally your axle isn't going to be locked down. It's not just going to be dragging behind the Jeep. So what you do is you roll up underneath the Jeep, you unhook your rear drive shaft, you pop your transfer case into four-wheel drive high, and you drive the MF home, and then you find you another rear axle or you rebuild it. All right. So you got to have a strategy for that scenario. I know my rear end is whining. I'm not sure why, because it doesn't have excessive play in it. The oil in it didn't look bad. The teeth looked fine in it. So but I hear it whining. It could be that it's echoing strange off the steel floor of the tub. It could be something like that. And it's making a very, very small whine sound worse. I'm going to check into that, make sure that there is adequate oil in that differential. But I replaced the seal on it, it doesn't leak. I've not seen it leak a drop. It's not leaking on either end because that's all new. So it could just be whining because it's got unknown miles on it. It's got at least 130,000 miles on it, at least. So I'm not worried about it enough, though. The amount that I drive the Jeep, generally rear ends don't just grenade instantaneously the second they start whining. So chances are I could probably drive it for quite a long time before I actually need to worry about that situation. Now, if I had unlimited money and resources, I'd go ahead and fix it. But I don't have that, so we're not worried about that. Now, other things that are wants that aren't necessary, I would very much like to put an antenna on the Jeep, fill this hole up because I don't like it. Put some speakers in there on the roll bar, put a radio in it. That's a want. I don't need it. Once these seats get worn out, I want to find a different set of seats. I enjoy the low back seats. I prefer that, but I want ones that are more comfortable and that give me a little bit more space. The padding on the back of these is very hard, but it's very thick, and so they're not the best seats. They're not. I wouldn't buy these again. Those are all kind of wants. They're not needs. A need, the three biggest needs that need to occur to the Jeep moving forward are: I need to go ahead and do the timing chain, which I have. I need to address the steering because my steering box is worn completely out and I've tightened it up as far as I can and I've still got excessive play in it. I'm trying to make a decision on whether or not I'm going to go to power steering or keep it manual, and I've about decided to go to power steering. It isn't a hard swap, it's just more expensive. So that'll be coming at some point in the future, not right now. I've got to save up that money to do that. That'll be, depending on how I do it, it's probably going to run me $700 to $1,000, something like that. And a need also, technically I want to get the luggage rack for up here on top so that the chairs, backpacks, cooler, anything like that I want to carry, I can put on top of the Jeep, secure it. It's right there above me. It's not taking up space in the Jeep. And that's kind of where we're at. I've already got the rack picked out that I'm going to put on it. It's really not that expensive. Its total dimensions will be 64 inches long, and it will be 50 inches wide. So it'll basically essentially be the entirety of this top will be storage space, and that's phenomenal. That gives me a lot of space to put stuff. I can put extra fuel cans up there. I can do all kinds of different stuff with that. Carry water, whatever I need up here. Obviously, you don't want to put too much because you don't want all that extra weight on top of a Jeep, make it roll over happy. But it would be nice to have that storage. Gives more space for my pup dog, Ashby, to sit in the back, and gives me more space for things that I absolutely need to keep dry, like camera equipment, sleeping bags, stuff like that. But that covers everything that I wanted to cover. If you can think of anything else, I know you can, John Doe. You've been writing up a list for me of other things I need to add to this kit. I'm aware of them, and I'm going to add them as I can afford it. But if you can think of anything, or tell me what you carry in your old Jeep when you're out on the trail, things like that. It's always good to bounce ideas off of people. But this is what I carry, and so far it's been pretty successful for me. I haven't had too many issues with what I've had in the Jeep prior to carrying all this stuff. So I've been lucky in that regard, I suppose. But I keep everything that I know needs to stay dry in either the console or the glove box. And in the future, maybe I carry some, like electrical tape. You don't want to get wet. Maybe I carry that in a waterproof box or something. But main thing is it's better to have it, not need it, than need it, not have it. And you don't want to be the asshole sitting on the side of the trail that could have fixed your 1980 CJ5 very easily if you'd have just brought that one thing that you said, no, I won't need. All right, just bring it. If you thought about it, you probably should bring it. I've learned that the hard way. I learned that the hard way when I went up into the mountains and had a flat tire. And before I left, I'm like, you know what? I should bring a spare. But we're not going that far. I really don't need one. And then that's the trip that I blew a tire on. That trip. Not any other trip. That trip. And if I'd have just slung a spare in there of any kind that fit the Jeep, I could have avoided quite a hassle. So, don't make the regular traveler's mistakes. And carry it with you. You can always take it back out when you get back home. Alright. I'm sorry if my breathing sounds erratic. It's quite hot. Hotter than I thought it was, quite honestly. And, you know, if you haven't noticed, I'm a fat man, so it kind of catches up with you after a moment. But we're still out here doing what we can. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this is somewhat helpful to you when maybe you're planning your kit for your CJ5 or your CJ2A or your M38 or your 3B, your Scrambler, whatever. It gives you something to think about. I will have a kit like this in Jubal too. Oh, another major thing that I'd like to bring with me that I keep neglecting to buy, but I need to buy, and this is pretty critical, is one of those portable jump start boxes that have a air compressor on them. And that's because, say you forget, you accidentally have your running lights on, your battery goes dead, you can roll start the CJ5. It's not pleasant and you don't want to, and your battery does need a little bit of juice in it to roll start it. And that's assuming that it's warm enough to crank easily and all that. So it's easier to just jump start the damn thing and not worry about it. The air compressor for the tires is kind of self-explanatory. I need to add a plug kit. Say I run over a nail, a stick, puncture the tire, it's in a good spot, I can plug it real easily. Instead of it being a destroyed day out on the trail, I can plug the tire, pump the tire back up, we're back on the road again. That's a cheap thing I need to add that I keep in other vehicles. I keep a plug kit in my daily driver, and I keep one in my 90s model Chevrolet. So I need to add one to this, and I'll ultimately add one to my other Chevrolet once it's operational. But yeah, that covers about everything. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, go check out my other channel, Red Bearded History. And if you enjoy this, like, comment, and share, and hit that subscribe button. It's free. It costs you nothing. Just do it. All right. You'll enjoy the content. There's more to come. I've got a lot of stuff I want to do that I'm planning. Some of it I've already told you about. A lot of it I haven't. So I'm hoping you're enjoying the quality of the content. I hope this audio is okay. I've made some changes to my settings, so I hope this audio is okay, because I know a couple videos back there was some people were saying there was audio issues, so hopefully this audio is fine. But until next time, until the next video, it's worth remembering, you have to love your 1980 CJ5. You have to love it, you have to embrace it, and you have to understand that you can't be afraid of it, all right? I hear people saying they're afraid to drive their Jeep, they don't trust it, things like that. The thing is you have to show that you trust it, all right? I've shown trust in this Jeep when it didn't make any sense, because I knew in my heart it wouldn't let me down if it wanted to. It couldn't even physically do it if it wanted to. And even the day that it got tired on me on the trail, it still cranked up, and I drove it for another 5 hours that day, all right? You gotta have a little bit of faith in the Jeep. Also, if you want to shake it out and figure out what's wrong with it, you gotta drive it enough to figure out what's wrong with it. You will never be able to determine its weak points unless you drive it. You don't have to drive it to here to New Mexico, but you do need to drive it ever expanding distances to figure out what's wrong and what's not working. That's what I did with this Jeep. I started out driving it up and down this road. Y'all remember those videos? I'd drive it not even a mile. Then I started driving it into town. Then I'd drive it up to North Georgia a little bit, just a little bit, drive it down to Woodstock. Now, the last time I drove it, I did a 150-mile round trip or so. Zero issues. Wasn't worried about it. I had the stuff with me. I knew I could repair most issues on the trail. That can be you. Get the Jeep out on the trail. The worst thing you can do is let it sit. It's the worst thing that you can do. Drive that Jeep. Drive it. Do it. It's what God wants. It's what you want. It's what AMC wants. Get it. Jeep for life. Yeah, buddy.